Hi, I'm Gary. My wife Robbie and I live in Southern California, Sunset Zone 23, USDA Zone 10A. And in this video I'm just going to go over my rebar that I'm using to stake my yams this year. Last year I used wooden posts. I actually used oak branches and they didn't work out as well as I'd hoped. So this year I bought some rebar, and this is the thickest rebar that I could find. I hammered it in, using my block splitter, and that gave me posts. And then I attached some of the other rebar that I've got. This is from a construction site. It was already pre-bent. So I attached some of these pieces across to build my arbor. And I wired it using scrap Chainlink wire. I do some Chainlink projects, so I always end up with scrap wire. And I just tied them together, tied the rebar together using the wire, and I just twisted them around, and now I've got a yam frame. Last year I grew yams on the stakes, and I had the stakes in my planters. So last year I used oak branches. I had a couple of issues with that. They broke off at ground level, they rotted and broke off, and some of the yams that were growing too close to the stakes grew around the stake and they got distorted. It's kind of superficial, but I don't really need it to be that way. So this year I've put in the rebar and that's working out well. Now the yams here, these are the white Dioscorea alata, and these are my purple yams or ubes. And the rebar works really well because the rebar has these divots. The rebar has ridges in it, and that's so the concrete can stick to it, and the yams really stick to it as well. So these ones are pretty well advanced. And if you're worried about the heat, last year I had one vine grow on my handrail and it burnt on the side that it was touching the rail. The ones that I ended up putting extra rebar in, they were fine. So the handrail gets hotter than the rebar, and once the vine gets growing, it's going to shade itself anyway. So the yams just want to take off, and what I'm going to do here is vine them over the top and have an arbor. So that's how I've got them set up here with the rebar. So the rebar here is in the ground, and the rebar I set up down below, I've done a little bit differently. Last year I grew a lot of yams along the chain link fence, and I had a few issues with it. The rabbits would come in and bite the stems, and then it'd have to start growing again. The rabbits don't tend to eat it, but baby rabbits will bite anything, so they damage the stems. So if I had 20 foot of growth and it was chewed off at the base, it would have to start all over again. The other thing is, clean up at the end of the season is tougher because you've got all this vined through the chain link. So this year I've only left a couple in the ground here. I've decided to grow more down in my main garden. To expand my yams, I started to use old water pipe that I got from a project. I put in some posts to support it in the center, and on either end I've got supports from the retaining wall and my building there. I'm suspending the stakes from the pipe, and I took some rebar, I bent the ends so that I've made a hook. I just have to hook it up the top there, and when the yam gets long enough it will start to run up. I've got another example over here that's a little better. This vine has already started to take up the rebar, so I've got a hook on that. They don't start putting out leaves until they get a certain distance. These are a cultivated plant. They've been cultivated for a couple of thousand years. Their ancestors would have grown in the rainforest, and the bottom of a rainforest is very dark, so they don't need to put any leaf growth on until they know that they can get sunlight. So the first thing they'll do is they'll grow without leaves, and they'll just vine up things. I've left this fig tree here. I'll probably graft onto it, but I'm also using that as a yam vine. So it's coming up the fig tree, and then it hit the post in my pergola, and it's twirling around the post in my pergola, and it's heading for the roof. I've put more water pipe along the rafters here, and I'm going to drape down more rebar. These yams here, if they were staked, they would already be heading up, but right now they're just running along the ground because they don't have anywhere to go. Ubes or purple yams, Dioscorea or alata, have a natural urge to go skywards. This is sweet potato that I've got as a ground cover, and it's naturally just wants to run and ramble along the ground. So that's the difference in the growth pattern between yams and sweet potatoes. Yams are a vine that wants to go up. Sweet potatoes are a vine that wants to run along the ground. And here, once I get this together, later on in the season, I'll show you how it looks. If you remember last year, I had all this caged off, and the reason I had it caged off is I had a rabbit problem. Now I've fenced my garden. I don't have any rabbits in here anymore, so I've gotten rid of the cages. The yam stakes that I had down here made it difficult to move around. With the rebar hanging or suspended from the sky, basically, I'll be able to walk through here, and at the end of the season I'll be able to lift the rebar down and I'll be able to remove the vines. It'll be a good, easy way to clean things up. And with that, that's just a quick update on how my ubes or yams are doing this year and what I'm going to do this year. Thanks for watching. If you'd like to subscribe to our channel, feel free to subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to give it a thumbs up if you like it. And if you want to be notified on upcoming videos, don't forget to hit the bell. And like I said, thanks for watching, and don't forget to eat what you grow.